Hi everybody, this is just a quick review of preceptor orientation. Since our preceptor program is guided by the guidelines from the Board of Registered Nursing, we have to follow certain rules. One of them is that the student must keep the instructor or your assigned faculty aware of where you are at all times while you are precepting. Remember, you are out of our line of sight. You're in the clinical facility, and we have to have a way to keep track of you. And the only way to do that is through the calendar. So that calendar that we have you complete and fill out with the dates that whatever dates you've arranged with your preceptor, we have to have that copy of it. And you have to have the exact same copy of it. You have to submit that schedule to your faculty prior to entering the clinical facility to start a preceptorship. You also have to notify your instructor of any changes in any kind of situation, whether your shift, all of a sudden your preceptor got sick and had to go home, you get floated, or any changes. And then we have to make sure all the preceptor paperwork is complete, and you can find out more about preceptor paperwork in the preceptor paperwork video, and that all 108 hours are completed. More guidelines. Again, to reiterate, you have to notify your faculty member, your instructor, if you get floated. That often happens. Most times your preceptor can take you with them when they float, but you cannot float to the emergency room. So if your preceptor, there's no way they can get out of floating to the ER, you will have to go home or see if there's another preceptor there that can take you. Now sometimes a preceptor will get canceled or get sick. You have to let your faculty know if this happens. Sometimes there'll be another Shasta College preceptor on that unit that can take you on and you can continue your shift. But sometimes the staff nurses may think that they're a Shasta College preceptor, but they're not. Shasta College preceptors are trained through the Shasta College preceptor program. It's called the Gray Gorilla program. It's an online class that they take. This is a mandate from the Board of Registered Nursing. So sometimes a staff nurse will think they're a preceptor because they orient their staff nurses, but it's not the same. So you have to check with your faculty to make sure that the person who is saying they are a preceptor is a Shasta College preceptor. You also have to let your faculty know if your preceptor becomes charge, because you can only do one charge shift, or resource nurse at Vibra. So let your faculty know if any of these changes in your precepting shift. Also, it goes without saying, if you get hurt or there's an accident or an incident that must be completed, paperwork done, or you get hurt, you have to let your faculty know. Now, if it's during the non-school hours or in the middle of the night, you may have to make sure you leave a message, but you may have to wait until your faculty member wakes up to get that message and then follow through with them on that. One other thing, if there's any conflict with your preceptor, please let your faculty know. Sometimes there may be a personality conflict. It just can't be helped. But we want you to have the best experience possible. This is a learning experience for you. And if you have a conflict with your preceptor, it'll increase the stress and decrease the learning. So please let us know if it's something that we can help with. Now the interim permittee, here are the guidelines for the interim permittee that you can find on the Board of Registered Nursing website. The reason that this slide is here is because even an interim permittee cannot perform outside of the basic functions they were taught in the RN program. And they have to have an RN present and available on the unit where they are working at all times. This is a board requirement. Now, just so you know, a student preceptee is not even an interim permittee. So it goes without saying that you cannot perform any skill that you did not learn in your basic nursing program. You've learned a lot of skills throughout the course of your program, but there are some things you have not done. If you have not done these things, then you cannot do them in your preceptorship. Our focus is patient safety first, and then your learning. Now, there are several things that Shasta College students have not done, and these are just 3 of them. You have not learned in your basic skills at Shasta College to draw blood from an IV or an arterial line. You have not learned how to access or de-access a portacath. You have not learned how to pull central lines or PICCs or arterial lines or sheaths. You've not done any of those things. So therefore, because you have not done them in your skills or in your education at Shasta College, you cannot do them while you are precepting. This will be beyond the scope of your practice as a student preceptee. So if in doubt about what a basic skill is that you've learned, you're not sure, ask your instructor first. The staff nurses, in their enthusiasm to get you to experience so many things, they may ask you to do something that's really beyond your scope of practice. So if you're not sure if you learned it or not, ask your instructor first. If it's in the middle of the night, you're going to have to defer and tell them you can't do it now, but you'll find out from your instructor as soon as you can. So maybe there'll be a second opportunity if you're able to do it. Clinical do's and don'ts. The one main do and don't is IV push medications. Yes, you can perform IV push medications, but every single IV push medication must be witnessed by your preceptor from the time you draw it up to the time you administer it. You cannot prepare it ahead of time without your preceptor not observing it. The preceptor has to observe you prepare it, draw it up, and administer. Reality shock. You may encounter some of the elements of reality shock, and you can read up more on this on your own. But usually the honeymoon period is when you first start your precepting shift. Then sometimes the shock and rejection period can occur because you recognize certain things are just not the way they were the way you learned them in school. You may see nurses doing all kinds of things that maybe seem like, that's not how I did it. And then the nurse comes around and says, honey, listen, forget what you learned in school. This is how it's really done. It's not that they're wrong or you're wrong. It's 2 different perspectives. Some of the causes of reality shock are because school and work cultures are very different. In school, you learn a more holistic way of performing care. In work, it's often very fragmented. In school, you learn things one step at a time. At work, or when you're precepting, you have to multitask and you have to stay on time. And you get constant interruptions. In school, the emphasis was on the quality of your work and how rewarding the nurse-patient relationship is. Whereas you'll find in preceptorship, it's often the quantity of work, how much you can get done, and then the rules and all the paperwork or electronic paperwork now that has to be done. These 2 things can butt heads and can cause you to feel very stressed. This will also occur when you start working, that first year of work. And we'll probably talk more about reality shock as time goes on. The key thing is to focus on the positive. Become future oriented. Don't focus on your mistakes. Learn from them. You're going to make plenty of them. List areas where you can improve, and this is where your goal sheets and the paperwork video that you'll watch later on will be important. You can look at your personal qualities and list them, things that you like about yourself, and remind yourself, you came all this way in this nursing program. You have done a lot and you know a lot. So keep the faith and just stay positive. Take time to treat yourself and engage in positive self-talk. You don't need to do negative self-talk. You'll have plenty of people that'll do that for you. So look at the positive. So that's about it. Focus on all these things. And when you're ready for your preceptorship, review the preceptorship paperwork video so you can get the nuts and bolts of all the rules and the paperwork and things you need to complete. Good luck.